This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Back for week 9 of the D3 Coach and Coordinators of the Week, presented by Hanson Ratings. Logan Hanson joining me. And Logan, an incredible season so far, really getting exciting as we look at the new playoff format and the rankings. And I know, I follow you daily, just different stuff you put out there on X and on your website. But great stuff, and again, an exciting season so far.
Yeah, definitely. I'm feeling really excited for this playoff with the new format too. With that first round, we're going to have 8 games and then a whole bunch of bowl games. Usually, those bowl games can be some great matchups too. And when they're going head to head with some great playoff matchups, they don't necessarily get as much attention as they probably deserve. And then, the next round, the round of 32, there'll be some matchups that usually that first round you might be seeing some blowouts, some 21-point wins, and this year, I have a feeling with this new format, we're going to see a lot more competitive games early in the postseason, and it's going to be really exciting to follow.
Definitely. It's great to be able to put some spotlight on D3 football, and that's exactly what we do here each week. And so we'll kick things off with our Offensive Coordinator of the Week for Week 9. Who do you have for us?
This week, we have Brett Elliott of Linfield, who beat Pacific 68-28. Brett Elliott's name might be familiar to longtime D3 fans. When he was a quarterback at Linfield, he won the Gallardi Trophy, which is the D3 version of the Heisman that goes to the most outstanding student athlete in the division. But as a coordinator, he is getting the job done right now. This is Linfield's 3rd game with at least 60 points. On the season, they rank 7th in total scoring, points per game, and they are 2nd in the country in red zone scoring on the season. So when they get close to the end zone, they're almost always putting points on the board. They've had 41 trips into the red zone this year and only 2 that haven't resulted in points. And last week, they scored on 6 of their 7 first-half drives, 5 of those being touchdowns. They had over 200 yards passing and rushing. And they had 13 different players who rushed the ball and 7 different players scored a touchdown. And this is just kind of what Linfield's been doing all year to teams. They are putting points on the board like crazy, but when you look at the yards, it might not look as flashy as some other teams, but that's because, they're making the most of those yards. They're not having wasted possessions. When they get in scoring range, they are putting points on the board, and that is an outstanding recipe to continue to have success.
Yeah, Coach Elliot joined us on the podcast. I believe it was in our first year of the podcast, and that episode is in our archive, so I don't have a link to share right now. We'll have to bring that one back out, but let's talk to Coach Elliot and what they've done in this D3 Offensive Coordinator Performance of the Week. Joining me now is our D3 Offensive Coordinator of the Week, Brett Elliott at Linfield. Brett, great to have you back on the podcast. It's been a while.
Yes, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. I think it's a big honor for our staff and players, and I'm excited to be back here with you.
Yeah, like you said, it is a collective effort. So before we get into our topic today, just want to make sure you had the opportunity to mention some of those guys who have helped you along the way here.
Yeah, we have a great offensive staff. Our head coach is on the offensive side. He's a great football mind, obviously, having done the defense before now and the offense. And then we kind of big collective group effort with our O-line coach, Bob Barnes, has done a great job coming in, getting us simulated. And those guys are playing well. And then obviously our younger coaches, Coach McAnally, who's our running back coach. And then our younger coaches, Dawson Lawrence and Colton Smith. So it's a big group effort, and proud of the guys and what we've done so far.
So one of the things that we're going to share today is what you call Friday drives, and people are familiar with Fast Fridays and how those work. But the important part of this is you think about all the things we do over the course of the week, highly structured, highly scripted sometimes, not necessarily giving players always the full context of the game in a drive. So you guys put together some drives, and it allows both them to get into the flow of how things are going to work the next day, as well as yourself. We'd love to hear about the concept and what you like about it.
Yeah, it's kind of our final dress rehearsal. We do it the last two periods on our Fridays. We'll start out and do red zone and third downs, and then last two periods, we script it out from the yard line it's going to be on to the hash. And actually, I kind of leave it up to our ball spotter to pick the hash to help me with the play calls as well. It's a great way for our players to get, full field flow, finding the ball, getting lined up, getting the signal, a lot of the operational stuff that it doesn't always get touched on during the week when you're resetting the ball always at the same yard line or just switching hashes. You're able to work that stuff. And then also as a play caller, you're able to work kind of get a feel for the layout of how you see the game playing out. It doesn't always work out that way, but you always kind of want a template for that, and it helps me kind of get it organized that way.
So you mentioned to me, too, that you treat this as a full dress rehearsal, just like the game, getting guys on and off the field, working substitutions, working on talking to these guys between the drives as well.
Yeah, so after each series, we'll go down and we'll run our red zone. Usually the plays end. Try to pick at least one red zone inside the 5 type play, because usually those require the most mental frequency in terms of subbing and personnel, and you're not repping those a whole bunch all week. So try to make sure we get those plays in there so it's able to get communicated. And then we'll celebrate, score. I think it's important to, luckily, we've been fortunate here to score a lot of touchdowns in the past, but at the same time, we work hard all week. We want to make sure we enjoy the results of the process. And so we'll celebrate, score a touchdown, then we'll come over to the sideline. And with the new video now, we're able to kind of practice that, watching the iPads or just rehashing, kind of going through the series and any issues we might have had throughout that series, and treat it just like a game and make the adjustments that way. So it really is a full dress rehearsal.
I imagine especially early in the season that was important. New technology, something you guys haven't been able to do. Newer guys might have done it in high school, but certainly new to your program. So you get a little bit of working that. So now it's game 1, game 2, things are familiar for them.
Yeah, they know how to physically work the iPad, what they're looking for. And it sounds silly, but wherever you sit on the bench to review things, and you get into a game and it gets a little bit chaotic. And so we want to take all that chaos out of it and make it as routine as possible.
Sometimes as play callers, some of those things we may have put in for that game plan that maybe are out of the norm, could be a tag, could be a special, whatever it might be. If the only place that was worked was during a highly scripted period, we might not have it in our thought process. How big has this been for you, making sure that you get to some of those plays that just aren't normally in the thought process because they are, something unique for that week?
Yeah, definitely try to get the complicated stuff in there in terms of the one-off type plays, not your base plays that you're running 50, 60 times a year. Try to get those going in the drive. And so the quarterbacks are used to getting that from the sideline, the signal, and finding the ball and doing all that stuff. So we definitely try to incorporate the different type of plays in those drives.
So the last question I have for you, it's always really what the players think of it and how it works for them. What's been the feedback on, I guess, both the Fast Friday, but also how you guys have incorporated drives into this?
Yeah, I think they love it. I think they're starting to look forward to it. I know our quarterbacks, we get a little nervous because normally pretty relaxed during the week, but I like my drives to go smooth, our drives to go smooth. So there's been a couple times where I've kind of lost a little bit of it because I had to reset it. But I think it's important. I think it's important to have it be clean. There should be no balls in the ground, and we tell our defense they're not playing balls on Friday. They can make all the picks they want on Monday and Tuesday, whether it's a confidence day on Fridays. And then what we've come to, one of our favorite things about the drives is we have a song called by Sir Charles Jones. It's called Friday, and it's all about the work week is done, kind of a old soul song and R&B song, and it really hits on that last. We time it out where the last series hits. And the work week is done. Here we go. Now you guys, now it's your time. So it times out well. So it's kind of a fun tradition for us. We've gotten established here with that song.
Well, I love it, Coach. You guys are doing a great job this season. Congratulations on being named our D3 Offensive Coordinator of the Week, and best of luck to you and the Wildcats the rest of the way.
Oh, thank you, Keith. Thank you, Keith. Really honored, and we're excited to have this honor. So appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be talking to you a bunch in the playoffs.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
That takes us to our Defensive Coordinator of the Week. Who did we have joining us this week?
This week, that honor goes to B.J. Hill of Johns Hopkins, who won 26-13 against Muhlenberg in a game against perennial contenders in the Centennial Conference. The Centennial Conference, always one of the top conferences in the country. They've usually got 2 or 3 teams in that conference who can win playoff games, and Johns Hopkins is taking care of business in the conference this year, and they're doing it on the backs of an outstanding defense. This is a defense kind of like last week where we had UW-Platteville, who's had some outstanding performances, and then last week was just the first time that they were given the honor. That's kind of how Johns Hopkins has been. I could have picked any week of the last 8 weeks, and it could have been Johns Hopkins winning this award just because of how consistent they've been on defense. And what they did against Muhlenberg was force 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble, and they returned an interception for a touchdown on the last play of the game to put the game away 26-13. They also blocked a go-ahead field goal at the end of the third quarter, and they did this all against a great offense. Muhlenberg has scored at least 33 points in every game this season, and Johns Hopkins did it by really relying on their rushing defense. They only allowed 3 first downs on the ground over the course of the entire game. And, they came into this one knowing it was going to be a 4-quarter battle, and the defense is who got the job done at the end of the game for them. So congratulations to Coach Hill and the rest of his staff.
Let's talk to our D3 Defensive Coordinator of the Week, B.J. Hill. We're joined by our Defensive Coordinator of the Week, B.J. Hill from Johns Hopkins. B.J., congratulations on being named our D3 Defensive Coordinator of the Week and on your great season so far.
Thank you. I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to be on this podcast.
Coach, this is always a collective effort, so I want to make sure you get a chance to mention the people who are doing this with you.
Yeah, Coach Wadika, I just want to say thank you to him for believing in me, first of all, for allowing me to be the defensive coordinator at such a great program. And then as well as the defensive staff that I work with, they've been amazing. Coach Mario Bird, who we're actually college roommates, so it's kind of crazy to have we're in this moment sharing it together as well. Coach Hugh Wolf, who is our linebackers coach, Coach Bird was D-line. And then we got Coach Derek Mason, who helps me with the DBs, as well as Coach Chris Fallon, who helps out the D-line.
Coach, we could get into a lot of different things here, I'm sure. And, for you, though, this all starts with making sure that your players understand you have confidence in them and you believe in them. Talk to us a little bit about that philosophy and how it drives things for you.
Yeah, you see all these chalk talks and you see all these great schemes and all these great X's and O's and these great drills that everybody preaches. But at the end of the day, I think if you let your players know how much you believe in them, then you can see all that stuff that you kind of created as a staff schematically work out in the way it should work out. We make sure our players know every single day that we do believe in them, that we have confidence in them, that we have faith in them. And I think if you stand on that and show your players how much you appreciate them as a player first and as a person first, then that's how you get the best out of them.
Yeah, you mentioned an important word there, show. I mean, we could stand up in front of our players and preach those things, and it is important for them to hear that verbally, but most importantly, to show them, right? Your actions, you could stand up and say something, but your actions have to be consistent with that as well. How do you show your players that you believe in them?
I think that's just whether it's film, whether it's in practice, whether it's just outside of football, giving them opportunities to succeed, you know, and making sure they know that, hey, you're put here in this position for a reason. So have faith that everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to. I believe in you, and talk to them in that manner, in that calm manner. And I think as long as you do that consistently, you'll be fine. You can't do it just one time and think, all right, this guy is good to go, where you have to harp on it every day. You have to be open-minded with them and hear their voice, and so that they understand, okay, I do have a voice. He is listening to me. Or Coach Bird or Coach Wolf is listening to me. And make them feel like they are loved and cared for in the football program.
That's always a little bit easier during the practice week to do those things. Obviously, game day, emotions are heightened. Everything obviously has a sense of urgency. How do you make sure that carries through to game day?
I think the biggest thing on game days is having a calm mind. It really is, because at the end of the day, they're all looking up to you as a staff. So if we're flustered or if we're all over the place, then they're naturally going to be all over the place. They're going to see like, oh, wow, they really don't believe in us. Because if they did, they'd be calm, they'd be uplifting us, they'd be positive, you know. So I think us as a staff staying calm on the sideline at all times allows them to see, okay, like we're in this, we can do this, we can make this happen, you know. We can go out there and get a stop when we need to get a stop.
Now, is this something for you that you've just always believed as a coach? Did you see your coaches do it? Is it something that you learned and started to implement yourself? How did this come about for you?
Well, for me, I'm naturally a laid-back person in terms of my personality. There's times where I can get loud and but there's also a lot of times where I can stay calm in every situation. But I think for me, I understand the impact coaches can have on players. So it's how can we get the best out of them? And this is just my way of it, my way of doing it. I don't want to tell anybody that there is only one way, but for me, it's how can I uplift them? How can I stay calm and hear their voice so that I can understand where they're coming from, so that we can be on the same page? At the end of the day, communication is very important. And if we're not on the same page as a staff as well with the team, then nothing's going to work. And I think I got that just from watching and learning and listening at my previous places as a player, in my previous school as a grad assistant. So I think understanding that allowed me to understand how to form myself as a coach, because at the end of the day, you can't be anybody else. You have to be yourself. When
you look at how this translates to your younger players, your down-the-line players, obviously maybe don't have the skill that gets them on the field right now, but you still want them to believe. So how do you bring them along so that you can get them to the point where, you know, belief matches the talent?
Right. So I think a big part of it is having a one-on-one conversation with them and sitting them down and helping them understand, like, this is a process. Like, we do believe in you. You know, everything's going to be okay, because, you know, when younger players get in the program, they go from being the big fish in a little pond to an average-sized fish or a small fish in a big pond, you know. So you have to explain to them that it's okay. It's a process. As long as you work hard, for me personally, I will make sure you get to where you need to get to in order to be successful here. And then you show them film on players from the past that, like, started off, and you can see, like, their growth. I think once they see, like, wow, like, they were in my same position, now they have the belief of, okay, if I work hard, I can make this happen.
And then just looking at your staff and how they do these things, and you mentioned, like, this is your style, you're going to do it a certain way, and certainly there's a lot of different ways to deliver a message, but for your staff, how do you make sure that that is ringing through however they do it, that, guys, we're about believing in these guys?
So I think that just becomes a conversation with you and your staff. Every day it's just, hey, guys, we're going to be good. Let's find a way to be successful this week with the guys, but schematically. And let's make sure that we understand that we are teaching them first. We have to be teachers first if we want to be successful as coaches and be successful as a team. If we're not teaching, then we cannot be a successful group. Because at the end of the day, we are teachers first, and we have to be great role models for them. And I think as long as we have that clear communication, that transparency in meetings, then I think we're fine.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time with us here during the season. I know it's always busy, so I appreciate your time. I want to wish you and your team the best of luck the rest of the way, and congratulations on being named our D3 Defensive Coordinator of the Week.
No, thank you again for having me. Very, very grateful for the opportunity. And I just want to give a big shout out to my team because without this football team, I wouldn't be in this position now. And I'm just very grateful for all the guys and hope to see them succeed later on down the road as well.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the new Prologue EV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the class-leading passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
That takes us to our final recognition, and I think all of these are collective recognitions. You always hear our coordinators naming their head coach, their coaching staff, their players, but we do intend this last one definitely to be a collective, and that's with our head coach and staff of the week. Who do we have for week 9?
This week, that goes to Dan McCarty of St. Norbert, who won against Wisconsin Lutheran 55-7. This game is something else. St. Norbert dominated from start to finish. They only allowed 4 first downs in total over the course of the entire game. And I don't know that I've ever seen a stat line quite like this before. St. Norbert had over 40 minutes of time of possession to Wisconsin Lutheran's less than 20. So if you're holding on to the ball for that long, your defense is getting off the field, your offense is stringing together drives, and they did that with 6 turnovers, another return touchdown, much like Johns Hopkins did. They had 4 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. And if you look at total yards for their offense, it's not going to look splashy because they were getting a lot of short fields, but they had over 200 yards each of passing and rushing. And then if you look at their drives, right, like I said, the total yards aren't going to be crazy, but percentage of yards to gain to get to the goal line, they finished every single drive until the last possession of the game on the opposing side of the 50-yard line. So they were doing what they needed to do, and they won 55-7. So what they were doing worked out for them, and congratulations to Coach McCarty and the rest of his staff for a great win and earning our coaching staff of the week.
Let's talk to Coach McCarty. Joining me is our head coach of the week at St. Norbert College, Dan McCarty. Coach McCarty, it's great to have you here, and congratulations on being recognized as our head coach and staff of the week.
Well, thanks for having me, and what an honor out of all the schools in the country for us to be selected for that. It's a real privilege to be able to represent St. Norbert College here with you this morning.
Yeah, as I said, this is a collective, and want to make sure that we recognize those guys who are working along with you on this journey through the 2024 season.
Yeah, our staff is, I feel so good about where we're at this year with our staff and our offensive coordinator, Dennis Cooper, our defensive coordinator, Charlie Druick, and it all starts with our staff and making sure our kids are ready to play. And we put some new things in this year, and I really feel like we're finally there. Things are really clicking on both sides of the ball, and special teams with Coach DeKaiser, our special teams coordinator. So it takes a ton of time and effort and hours and manpower to get this all done, and we couldn't do it without our staff.
As we take a look at where we're at in college football, we always talk about building culture, but I think a big part of that and a big part of it for you is not just building it, but retaining those guys there. I mean, guys have as many opportunities at the D3 level to move on and do things and even move to a scholarship school. So it is about building relationships and retaining guys. We'd love to hear your philosophy and your approach to how you do that.
Yeah, I would start by saying this year, more than any other year, my biggest role right now is I'm a counselor. It's really kind of eye-opening, the amount of players that I've met with this year and multiple meetings. But that tells me we're doing things the right way, right? We make one promise here, and that's to treat, we tell parents we're going to treat your son like he's our own. And when our kids know that they can come to us with problems and issues that they're dealing with in life, that tells me we're running the program the right way. But it takes a lot to establish that culture and then keep it. As an example, last year, our freshman retention rate was 88% on our football team. And that's an impressive number. But some of the things we do is in the summer, we'll start our Big Brother program. So every freshman that comes into our football program gets assigned a Big Brother. And we try to match those guys up with, if he's a freshman, we try to match him up with a sophomore just because those guys have a lot more in common. But that Big Brother program, and it's going to take some time, right? It's going to take some time for you to establish this, but it's about teaching our guys our culture, right? Our family culture and everything we do that revolves around the word family. It's making sure they're comfortable coming into training camp. Once they get here for training camp, it's making sure they know our schedule. It's making sure they get to and from practice. They eat lunch together. I have every player come up in front of the team and introduce their little brother to the team and tell us where he's from, what he's about, what his hobbies are. The little brother will explain to the team what the big brother, where he's from and his hobbies. And, every year my biggest goal at training camp is to take a new freshman class and get them into this team and for us to come together as a team. And in my opinion, the only way you can do that is if we get to know one another and what makes you click. And for me, for example, I love hunting and fishing. And so I connect with those guys on the team that have that same passion that I do, right? And that's what I'm trying to do, with the entire team. And it's tough. I don't care if you're college, high school, whatever. It is tough starting as a freshman. And if I was back in the high school ranks where I used to coach, never did this. And man, I wish we would have. You compare one of your freshmen up with an older upperclassman that's going to first day of class make sure he's doing okay and he's getting around. Because it is a big adjustment, right? I have a freshman right now. My middle daughter's freshman in high school, and it's a big challenge and it's a big tradition. The other thing that I'm currently doing this year is I take a player to lunch every day. And I started with the freshman class. I've been able to get through the freshman class, and now I'm going through the sophomore class. But again, that's the time to sit one-on-one at lunch, really talk about life, find out what's going on in their life, where their struggles are, and truly get to know these players. And man, I'm so proud of the culture that we have here and how much our guys truly love one another and care about one another. And that's why we don't have guys that really leave, because they get here and they're part of something that's bigger than them. And we have our freshmen hang out with our seniors. We're an extremely tight football team. But again, it just doesn't happen overnight. And there's more I could go into that we do. But to me, man, it's establishing your culture. And then it's living by that culture. And for us, the last thing we want to do is have a young man come here and not walk away in 4 years with a degree, right? And that's the big picture we're doing with this, is trying to use the sport of football to help these kids better their lives by getting a great education and being able to have a great career after post-grad and have some good things and enjoy life a little bit.
Congratulations on that retention rate, 88%. At the D3 level, really at any level of college sports, I think is outstanding. It is a tough transition for kids to move from what they were doing at the high school level into something that's brand new, tougher than they've ever done before. And I really love how when you look at this and we think about retention today, it is so important to involve our players because they're going to be spending the most time with each other, way more than they do with us as coaches. And if we don't have those guys involved in this, I think we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, for sure. And when I mentioned, right, it'll take some time because, okay, our freshmen right now, if this was the first year we were doing this, right, they're going to see the results of that. Next year, they're going to be the big brother. So they're going to realize, hey, I was treated so well last year. Now it's my role to treat the freshman coming in, my little brother. I got to treat him the same, right? And each year you're just trying to constantly improve that culture and that big brother program a little bit. And then when you get to year 4, right, now those guys are, are seniors, right? And so each year you're really building and stacking upon that. I know there's a lot of high school coaches, I'm sure, that listen to your podcast. And I think you got to try to make your sport the destination sport. Right. I know you're walking up and down the hallways going, man, I'd love to have him playing, but make it a place they want to come. Make it a place where they are included, no matter what their talent level is, no matter what anything is. Make it a place where they're welcome and they feel a part of something bigger. That's really what will attract people, is when you can kind of make that destination. And we're all hurting for numbers. The other thing with us that I should put in the context, we have a big roster. We're 136 players on our team. And let's face it, everyone wants to be out there and everyone wants to be playing. When this culture comes into play, you can have those tough conversations with kids, right? That's the other advice I would tell coaches. Be truthful. I feel like we're kind of the last truth talkers of the world almost. We have to be upfront and honest and truthful with our kids. We can't tell them what they want to hear, because that's just going to create more issues if they, if they come in and say, hey, coach, I want a shot, I want to play more. And I've had plenty of those conversations this year. What I've learned that I have to do a better job, which I have, is really step back and listen first, right? Understand the other point of view before I explain why you're not where you are playing on the field. But when you develop that culture and your players know you truly care about them as people, you can have those tough conversations. It's the danger zone, I call it. I think sometimes coaches want to avoid the conflict, tell a player what he wants to hear, and then nothing changes, and now you have a player that's even more disgruntled than he was before because you told him he was going to get a shot and he didn't. So those would be the two big things for me, man. Establish that culture, make it a destination, and then be truthful and honest with your kids and truly let them know that care about them and love them.
There was something else that you brought up that I think is a really smart idea. You talked about taking your players individually to lunch. I mean, you think about our interaction with our players. We're in the meeting room, we're on the field, weight room, whatever it might be, in our own offices, sitting across from our desk. It's a different setting when you go and take them to the school cafeteria. You guys sit down, you go to lunch, you discuss things differently. It reminds me of during the pandemic, I had Ola Adams on, who's the defensive backs coach for Indiana now. And Ola talked about, from necessity, but something he continued on with, that they couldn't be in the office, they couldn't be face-to-face. So they would go outside and he'd just walk and talk with his players. And it was a completely different setting, a different dynamic than when you sit down in the office and there's more of that formal interaction. I think taking him out of that setting, sitting down and really getting him to know him as a person that way, whether it's like Coach Adams does or like you're doing, take him to lunch, is a huge factor. And something I think you would recommend to position coaches, head coaches, everybody involved in the process.
I think anything you do that you can truly get to know the players you are coaching, and non-football, take football out of it. The more you can truly get to know who they are, the better you can coach them, right? The better you're going to know how they react to things. I have one player I'm dealing with, very quiet. It's tough for me to get through to him. I'm realizing, okay, here's how he communicates a little bit differently. And I'm having to break down some barriers, right, for him to be able to talk and communicate. But we're making progress. Other players, right, they'll tell you everything, boom, up front. But the more you can just truly get to know your kids and your organization, and not only that, your coaches. You got to get to know your coaches as well and truly, right, who they are. And it's tough because it takes time. But, man, it matters. I'm telling you. And coaches get sick of dealing with drama. I'm so blessed. 10 years, I think we've been here. We hardly deal with drama. This year we've dealt with no drama because everyone knows here's our expectations, here's the standard, right? We say the standard is the standard. We got to match that standard. But when you're upfront and honest with kids and you tell them the truth and you tell them what they need to work on for them to improve on where they are in the depth chart, then they know where they stand. And that's just the way to go, man. But I don't know, it takes time, it takes effort, but the results are so worth it because we get sick of dealing with the drama and guys worrying about stats and some of those things. When everything you do is about the team, then you got a special thing going.
Well, all of that off the field work, those relationship building leads to efforts like you guys put up this last week, which earned you the D3 head coach and staff of the week. Congratulations again on that. And best of luck to you and the Knights the rest of the way.
Hey, I appreciate taking the time today for us to share a little bit about our program. We appreciate you.
Logan, this has been such a fun series for me. I know I always look forward to talking to these D3 football coaches. I know both you and I can really relate to what these guys do and the journey they've been on and, what it takes to coach at the D3 level. I'm just excited that we're able to highlight these guys each week. And, week 10 coming up here. It's going to be another great week of football crunch time for conference championships, automatic bids, and at-large bids, more at-large bids this year, plus, lining up some of those bowl matchups that we've talked about. So look forward to week 10.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's a gigantic division. There's 240 teams. So there's going to, every week I'm finding stat lines for teams that might not usually be in the national spotlight, but they're putting together great performances week in and week out, and it's great to get to honor those guys.
Coaches, make sure, in addition to listening to the podcast, you check out the articles that we put together on each of these coaches on coachandcoordinator.com. Follow all we're doing on X at Coach K. Grabowski and Logan Hanson. Follow him on X. Logan, what's your handle?
Logan Ratings. That's Loghan Ratings on Twitter.
And we'll be back for another week of our Hanson Ratings D3 Coach and Coordinator of the Week. Vertical Raise for your fundraising needs, modern football technology for analytics and in-game decision-making, and signature championship rings when you win the championship this year. Links and information to all of our partners can be found in the description and on coachandcoordinator.com in our 10% toolkit. Follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.